Hey everybody, today I am going to be reviewing Frankenstein. This was directed by Guillermo del Toro. This is del Toro's dream project and he has been trying to get it off the ground for many years, and it feels very fitting because it feels as if every single movie he's made in his canon up to this point, it's as if they all carry pieces of the eventual trajectory that would become Frankenstein. And it's Guillermo del Toro, so it's like we know what he offers as an artist. And here he has given us quite a grand gothic presentation of the iconic tale that is Frankenstein, and it's very cinematic and old-fashioned, even though the compromise is, of course, that it is released on Netflix and only in a few select theaters nationwide. I know I don't talk about del Toro films a lot, and there's kind of a reason for that. I liken him a lot to Tim Burton, as an example, and they're both artists that I have immense respect for. I think they have incredible perspectives, a visual style, and an eccentricity that was able to bridge the gap, and become more accessible. And they have proved multiple times that they have strong work in them. I look at a movie like Pan's Labyrinth as an example. For me, that is by far, at least from what I have seen, by far the best film Guillermo del Toro ever made. But, and there's always a but with me, I feel like both directors, once they reach a certain level of success in Hollywood, it meant that they started to compromise their visual style, the specificity of it, the texture of it. And the result often ends up looking more like something that's glossy and highly corporatized, instead of something that's meant to be very expressionistic and a celebration of like the wacky and the gothic. I would say my experience watching the movie is pretty much what I expected. Yes, I did enjoy it more than I thought I initially would, but at the same time, I feel like this movie is kind of going through the motions of the story in a way that doesn't explore the richer thematic ideas. And thus the whole experience for me is just, it's somewhat unsatisfying. It's like I can't quite grip onto it. I was certainly engaged on a basic level, and the movie is quite long, and yet I never felt the urge to look at my watch or anything like that. However, there was an emptiness and a thinness to the material overall. And, when I look at Frankenstein, I think most people would agree it's one of the more universal tales about the human condition. And while you can see the movie at times flirting with more of those deeper philosophical questions, I think it's far too broad, too simplistic to be able to capture the essence of the original source material properly. To me, the most interesting section of the film was the Victor Frankenstein section, which is the first half of the film, because it's the human drama that builds the foundation for the eventual third act. And they do quite a solid job with it. It moves well, the production design is so lavish, the cinematography is gorgeous, and the costume design is stunning, especially like the outfits that Mia Goth is wearing, just those solid jewel tones that create these little pops, these Freudian symbols in the film. It's very haunting and beautiful, and I'm a big Mia Goth fan. So again, the pieces are there and the money is absolutely on the screen, but it was the handling of the characters themselves in terms of the writing that I found to be more of the issues. They felt like, schematic versions of more flawed human characters that I was interested in. Oscar Isaac plays Victor in the film, and I guess I just never thought about this, but it's like, wow, he really does have the look of like a silent film actor just because he's got those big eyes, exaggerated features, I guess. I think he would be a wonderful star of like a German expressionist horror film of the time, especially with like the frizzy hair. But the exploration of that particular character is so crucial to the emotion of the overall film and all of the themes. But it felt like here we're just like swinging for the fences, trying to find who he is as a person rather than kind of like chiseling away at it. I always like the idea of Victor being portrayed as not a bad person, somebody who maybe has his heart in the right place, but yeah, he's human. So tragically, his ego and all of those human failings are going to become his undoing. And the sad thing about humans often is that even though they're destructing, they don't even realize it, or they do realize it, and yet they continue with that self-destruction. And even just there's so many interesting things I think you could tap into, but in the del Toro version, Victor just doesn't feel that nuanced. It's almost as if they wanted to make Victor blatantly the antagonist here, because, he's mean-spirited, he's angry, he's petty, and he's physically quite violent. And I don't like that because once you sacrifice the complexity of that particular character, the message becomes completely simplified in the end of it. I think when you have a story this universal where it has been adapted, there's so many iterations throughout time, I think it is important of finding a way to keep those themes resonant rather than reductive. I think I need a little bit more than, I think humans were the monsters all along. That's often a message that del Toro is exploring in his films, but I just wish he would do it where he's not laying on the sentiment as thick. I look at the casting choice of Jacob Elordi as an example, and it's tough because on one level, I think he's the best thing in the film so far as the performances are concerned, but I also think he wasn't the right casting choice. I can tell that Elordi really wants to be taken seriously as an actor by taking on challenging roles like this. And I think he really thought about this character, thought about the physicality of it, and really thought about the pathos as well. It's all there in the eyes and everything. But from a casting perspective, I just think to myself, he looks too pretty. He looks like one of those like long-haired Fabio types where you might see them on the cover of like a paperback romance novel. Then of course the prosthetics add a strange touch. They reminded me more of the aliens in Prometheus though than anything else. I guess I've never expected to see a Frankenstein monster who had like high cheekbones and like naturally smolders for the camera. To me, it doesn't reflect the really painful, dark, twisted, haunted aspects of that character, and it goes again for the easy sentiment. There's nothing really bad about this film, and I am recommending it on a basic level. I think you should watch it if you have Netflix. It's fun. It keeps you engaged. But for me, I just think there are more interesting versions of Frankenstein that I would personally rather watch that give you a lot more to chew on so far as the density is concerned. Del Toro, in a lot of ways, reminds me of the Oscar Isaac version of the Victor Frankenstein character, in the sense that, yes, he's really talented and he has this passion and this joy about him that is infectious, but he's also relentless, and his focus is narrowed in a way that I actually think hinders his work in a way that I'm not sure he's aware of. There is a montage in the first act of the film that involves Christoph Waltz and the Oscar Isaac character where it's like they're starting to develop their ideas and they want to get this Frankenstein project off the ground. And of course it involves all of these like ligaments and arms and all this stuff, prosthetics, and you just know that Del Toro was having a hard on. He had such a field day with all of that. And I liked all of that because you're looking at like the muscle tissue and the glistening organs, but I want all of this to have a heart and a soul to it too. Del Toro is somebody that I admire immensely, but it's like I appreciate his work more than I really enjoy it myself. But I'm also quite glad he exists as an artist in this industry. So like I said, I do recommend checking this out on Netflix. I wouldn't expect a masterpiece, personally. But yeah, so that is my review. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to plug my website as always. It is deepfocuslens.com. I'm an artist. I do commission portraits, and I also sell prints of my work. If that is something that you're interested in, you can always go to the website below. And if you have a question about a commission or a print, you can always email me. My email is in the description box below. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to my patrons who are great. Guys, thank you so much for your support. Welcome to all the new members. If you are interested in supporting, the link for that is below, as well as the rest of my social media information. You can watch more videos here, and you can subscribe if you'd like. Catch you next time.